Hello, you guys. Mehdi Hassan from ZTU did an investigation on the ties between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, and I thought it would be interesting if we watch it together and react to it together.
Confidence, but it's not over Trump's Medicaid cuts or his mass deportation campaign. They love all of that. What they don't love is that the Trump DOJ is now denying that the late child sex offender and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein had any kind of quote-unquote client list, or that his death was anything other than a suicide. They're mad at Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi, accusing her of incompetence, or worse, a cover-up. But how come MAGA is never mad at Trump for, being friends with Jeffrey Epstein, for all his connections to Epstein over the decades? How come they never saw the writing on the wall when Trump got quite prickly and even nervous last year when he was asked on Fox about declassifying a certain set of files?
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least...
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
I don't know about Epstein as much as I do the others. Are you kidding me? Trump knows Epstein better than most people on planet Earth. So while MAGA may be obsessed with Pam Bondi and before her, the Clintons, we here at Zateo have...
So Trump wants to convince us that he knows more about COVID and more about the death of JFK than he knows about a man that he was friends with and neighbors with for 10 consecutive years. A man who described him as his best friend. Unbelievable.
What you covered when it comes to Trump and Epstein. Everything you need to know about these two best buddies going back almost 40 years. So here we go. Let's start in 1987. That's when Epstein and Trump's friendship begins. At least that's what Trump told New York Magazine in 2002. By 1990, the two men have officially become neighbors after Epstein buys a mansion in Palm Beach, just 1 mile away from Trump's Mar-a-Lago. According to Roger Stone, Trump once said that Epstein's pool was filled with young girls when he visited, telling Stone that it was nice to see Epstein let the neighborhood kids use his pool. The neighborhood kids. In 1992, Epstein and Trump are filmed partying together at Trump's Mar-a-Lago club with cheerleaders for the Buffalo Bills and chatting about the women around them. That same year, Trump hosted an even more exclusive party at Mar-a-Lago for a, quote, calendar girl competition with just him, Epstein, and almost 30 women. Between 1993 and 1997, Trump flies on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet at least 7 times. 7 times, according to flight logs released by Trump's own AG, Pam Bondi, earlier this year. Now we come to the year 2000, a big year for the dynamic duo. Trump and Epstein are pictured together at Mar-a-Lago, along with Melania, prior to her becoming Trump's third wife, and Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's sidekick, who would later be convicted for child sex trafficking. 2000 was also the year that one of Epstein's most prominent victims, the late Virginia Giuffre, was allegedly recruited into Epstein and Maxwell's sex ring while she was working as a locker room attendant at, wait for it, Mar-a-Lago. That same year, reported...
So Prince Andrew's victim, Virginia, who died very recently at 41, and it said it was a suicide, worked for Trump, and was recruited while working for Trump. And we want to be convinced that he didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein's activity and he didn't participate in it. This was the most vocal victim, Prince Andrew's victim. And she's, I believe, the one who got the documentary on Netflix. And she died in very suspicious circumstances. After tweeting, weeks before her death, "I'm not suicidal," she allegedly died by suicide at 41. We're supposed to believe this. This is so suspicious. Like, when you connect the dots, it's impossible that he didn't know what was going on. And it's impossible, absolutely impossible, that he didn't participate in it. Come on. He was his neighbor. He knew about his taste in women. He even described him as liking younger women or women on the younger side. They partied quite oftenly together, and some of the women working for Trump were recruited for Jeffrey Epstein. Come on.
Michael Corcoran of Maximum Golf magazine documents Trump greeting Epstein, Maxwell, and a young woman accompanying them as they board onto Trump's private jet along with Trump's family for a trip to Mar-a-Lago. Trump supporters like to claim that their man had no idea about Epstein's pedophilia. And yet in 2002, in that interview with New York Magazine, Trump describes Epstein as a lot of fun and liking beautiful women almost as much as he did, specifically those, Trump says, on the, quote, younger side. Come 2004, though, Trump and Epstein have a major falling out after going to war over the purchase of a Palm Beach property. Trump ultimately won that battle, selling it off a few years later. Now, in 2008, Epstein is finally convicted for soliciting minors for prostitution, making him an official sex offender. Only he's granted a non-prosecution agreement signed off on by the U.S. Attorney for Southern Florida, Alex Acosta, who Trump would later hire as his labor secretary.
So
This allowed it.
Alex Acosta granted Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal, and this was under the Bush administration. And when he was asked why he did so, sweetheart deal, basically, I believe he got only 3 years in prison, and 18 of them he would spend in prison, and 18 months would be spent in prison, and 12 months would be spent in community service. But then later he didn't even spend those 18 months in prison. When Alex Acosta was asked why did he grant them, why did he grant him a sweetheart deal, he said because he was intelligence. I was told to back off because he was intelligence. Now, there's two options. Either he was told that he was CIA, and in this case he had to back off because it was the country's intelligence, or worse, he was told that he was a Mossad, and he backed off. And that's how much control Israel has over USA, or the USA government. That even when an intelligence official is caught, he doesn't get convicted or gets a sweetheart deal. Now later this man was hired by Trump. Why would Trump hire him? If Trump was avoiding Epstein and all the smoke that comes with Epstein, he shouldn't have hired him. At the very least, not to open that kind of worms, not to cause problem for himself and his reputation here. And this was, I believe, in his first term, so he still was aiming for the second term. So why would he hire him? Unless they were doing shady business together, unless he wanted to shut him up by keeping him under his wing. That's more plausible argument. Why would he hire a man like this? So let's continue.
Epstein to plead guilty to only state, not federal charges, and avoid a possible life sentence. In 2015, Gawker publishes Epstein's infamous Black Book, which Epstein reportedly used to keep track of all his friends and associates. Not only is Donald Trump listed in it, but so is his former wife Ivana, his current wife Melania, and his daughter Ivanka. 2019, Epstein is arrested by the FBI on sex trafficking charges. He's accused of sexually abusing, so is his former wife Ivana, his current wife Melania, and his daughter Ivanka. 2019, Epstein is arrested by the FBI on sex trafficking charges. He's accused of sexually abusing dozens of underage girls. A month later, after being denied bail, Epstein is found dead in his jail cell after dying by suicide. Epstein's death then kickstarts a wave of conspiracy theories, many of which Trump either fuels or refuses to deny.
Do you really think that Clintons are involved in Jeffrey Epstein's death? I have no idea. I know he was on his plane 27 times, and he said he was on the plane 4 times. But when they checked the plane log, Bill Clinton, who is a very good friend of Epstein, he was on the plane about 27 or 28 times.
So if we use the same argument, you were his neighbor and you were on his plane 7 times. So if it's an argument against Clinton, I'm not defending Clinton, he probably was involved in this, then it's an argument also against you, that you also were involved in this. But it was convenient for him to talk about it back then, because it was Clinton who was under, it was Clinton, who was under the fire back then, and it was Democrats who were in office, but now it's not convenient to him to talk about it anymore. Because now he is in charge and he has to answer to the fact that he wouldn't release informations about him. He has the power, he has the keys, and he still wouldn't use them. So now he's in much more difficult position than he used to when he was in his first term or during the Biden administration. Also, the Biden administration did not link themselves to this case. Biden never won on the issue of Epstein. He won on other issues, and that is if we consider the things that he won on them issues. I don't even remember what was his agenda. It was so blah. He didn't even have a specific clear message. But anyway, but he never won on the Epstein case. He never promised anybody anything, and whenever asked about it, he can always answer oh, it was under Trump administration that this happened. He should be the one answering to this. But Trump won on this during this term, so he has a responsibility to answer for this, because he promised his base something and now he's not going to deliver. Why aren't you delivering on your promises? So he kind of set himself up this way, and he has a lot of connections to him. Bill Clinton has connections to him, but Bill Clinton is pretty much outside of the political world right now. It's Trump who's still very much under the light and has to answer to his actions. Let's see what he has to say.
So why did he say 4 times?
Now, of course, Trump supporters would say I'm being a bit too hard on him, that he was just asking questions. Well, in that case, I have a question. If someone did manage to kill Epstein while he was in a federal prison, wouldn't it have been more likely to be someone with a bit more power than a former president, like Bill Clinton? Maybe someone like the guy who was actually president in 2019 when Epstein died. I mean, I'm just asking questions. 2020, Trump sends well wishes to Epstein's co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, after a reporter asked him about...
Yeah, this one is also bizarre. When Trump was asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, who is pretty much the recruiter, the pimp of Jeffrey Epstein, the one who would target young women. And you know that young women are more sensible to manipulation by other women than they are by men. Because when we are young, we're always we're set with an alarm since a very young age. Be careful of men, be careful of men touching you, be careful of men approaching you. We kind of more ready to expect harm from men than women. I know that that's not really the case, because both men and women can hurt a child and can hurt a minor, but this is the way we are designed usually. In this case, Ghislaine, pretty much, if she was the recruiter of young women, then she must have known, at least if not all, most of Jeffrey Epstein clients. When Trump was asked about her, he answered in a very weird way. I wish her well. I wish her well. The problem with this is that you're wishing well on a sex offender. Even if she was your friend, she solicited the abuse of minors, the sexual abuse of minors. You would think he will go, no comment, I don't want to talk about it. It's horrible what she... Especially with somebody who has a bombastic personality like him. He never holds back. Especially when it comes to smashing someone. He's literally that kind of guy that has so much ego. He wants to squash people with one finger. He couldn't care less about what people think or feel. But in this case, his response was very calculated, vague, and weird. I wish her well. This is weird. It's almost as if he doesn't want to poke the bear. He doesn't want to say something that gets on her nerves, that potentially leads her to leaking information about him. And it's something for Jeffrey Epstein to die. It's another thing Maxwell also to die, because we already have 3 deaths linked to this case, other than the Jeffrey Epstein case. We have the Virginia death, we have the Maxwell's father's death, and we have the Jean-Claire Bellot, I don't remember exactly his name, but the man who owned the modeling agency that supplied also girls to Jeffrey Epstein also died in his prison. The 3 of them, except for Maxwell's death, Maxwell's father's death, was in a very suspicious circumstances. 2 of them were concluded as a suicide, and her father's death was an accident by falling from his own yacht. So the 3 of them died in a very suspicious circumstances. Imagine if you add the death of Maxwell. He cannot shut her up by killing her. He had to choose one, either Epstein or her, I believe. If he's the one, or if somebody would want to kill one of the 2, will have only the option to eliminate one of the 2 and make it look like a suicide. Because if he eliminates both, then it looks even more suspicious, like nobody would believe that this is not a murder case. Then probably the smart thing to do is to choose Epstein and intimidate Maxwell to shut up. It's a very weird response. It's like he's powerless in front of this woman. And there are reports right now that said that she's willing to testify in front of Congress. Usually, pretty much in every big case, there is a testimony in front of Congress. Case in point, the entire Russia investigation, when they called Robert Mueller to the Congress to testify. But in this case, I wonder if the Congress will want her to testify. We saw they voted to not release the Jeffrey Epstein. At least Republican, or most of the Republicans did vote to not releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files. So it'd be interesting to see if they will, maybe Democrats. I don't believe that even Democrats want to release this information, but it'd be interesting to see her testify in front of Congress. Like, she comes out and blasts his ass, and everyone's on that. Imagine if she's in the Congress and then she goes this person and this person and this person and this person, and she points at them. You were all my clients, or his clients. It will be insane. It will be literally the biggest political revelation, the biggest comeback. She's a dead woman walking. They are so scared of her because she's a dead woman walking. What worse can happen to her? What worse can possibly happen to her? She already is convicted with trafficking minors. Even if she gets out of prison, what life awaits her outside? The only thing that she can, I think, not win the public back, but get the public to at the very least tolerate her a little bit, is by coming out and exposing them. Expose them all of them. So this is really weird response. This is not the response of somebody who's self-assured and is not related at all to the case. This is the response of somebody who's walking on thin glass, who is scared of saying a wrong word and you know, around and F around, I find out. Let's go.
Her being on trial. According to journalist and Trump biographer Michael Wolff, Trump considered pardoning Maxwell because he worried about what she might say at her trial. 4 years later, in 2024, just days before the election, Michael Wolff releases a series of audio recordings from interviews he did with Epstein in 2017. Listen to what Epstein says about his friendship with Trump.
So how do you know this?
That was close friend.
Not only was he apparently his closest friend, but here's the big one. In June 2020...
He was his friend for 10 years. What friend do you have for 10 years that you haven't been to his house? You don't know about his family. You don't know about his issues. You don't know about his profession. You don't know about his life. This is if he was and a distant friend. They were neighbors, and they worked together and organized events together. We were just talking about the calendar event, whatever, the ridiculous events like that. It's impossible that he didn't know about his activity. He even hinted at it. He said that he liked women on the younger side. What the hell did he mean by that? What the hell do you mean by women on the younger side when you are describing a pedophile? It's unbelievable that there are people who are still willing to defend this man. And I think the problem is that a lot of people are looking at this issue with the lenses of Democrats versus Republicans, when I believe that certain issues should not be politicized. For example, the health of kids and the entire transitioning process right now should not be politicized. Sexual orientations and problems regarding that should not be politicized. Foreign wars and foreign policy should not be politicized. Even if it's a political matter, it should not be, at very least, not polarized, if not politicized, not polarized. Because these are things that concerns everybody, and when you put them in this mold, the mold of Democrats versus Republicans, you make people lose a lot of insight because they are so busy defending their side rather than actually looking at the interest of their own country and the interest of them and their interest, interest of the American people in solving this issue. You're talking potentially about a blackmail spying ring that controls the better part of your decision makers, the number of your decision makers in Congress, in the Pentagon, potentially in economy, the biggest names in the economy, and in politics. When we're talking about the president and going down, this is an issue that shouldn't consider Republicans or Democrats, or shouldn't be polarized. This is an issue that concerns every American who cares about the independence of his country. And I think after that, it should concern everybody who has a heart and has morals. Like, it's unacceptable what happened to these kids.
In the midst of their bitter feud, billionaire and former Trump ally and donor Elon Musk tweets, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files."
Yeah.
Now, Musk has since deleted that tweet. Maybe he realized it doesn't look great to have funded someone you claim was associated with a pedophile. But still...
This is the thing. Look, I'm a psychiatrist. I haven't been practicing for long. I freshly started this career. But I once heard something from somebody smart. People tend to be a lot more honest when they are angry, when they are high, and when they are drunk. They tend to be lot honest, lot hurtful, but lot honest. They're very honest when they are hurt, when they are angry, when they are high, and when they are drunk. Because in this status, usually people, when it comes to being high and being drunk, they don't tolerate frustration very easily. So they have a verbal diarrhea, they can keep it inside. But when it comes, when you're hurt and when you're angry, you are very fragile. And they say what they truly believe, even if it doesn't necessarily reflect the truth. But they say they feel very fragile, very vulnerable, and they are ready to say what they truly believe. Masks off, they don't care about the consequences. So in the case of Elon Musk, it's not necessarily that he knows for sure that Trump is in the Epstein files, or that Trump was a guy. He probably is. But he believes so, or else he wouldn't have said it. And I don't believe that he said it while he was conscious, if you know what I mean. The man supposedly is high most of the day. He drinks, doesn't drink, but consumes a lot of shit. So he probably said it at a moment when he was angry at Trump and just let it out. Let out something that he already believes, even if he doesn't have proof of it. So it's interesting. Did Elon Musk working with Trump heard something, saw something, learned something, or maybe because of his inner circles? He is a very rich man. He's been in these powerful circles. Did he learn something? Somebody told him something? Or worse, was he himself a client and crossed roads with Trump? Who knows? But it's very interesting. And I don't believe that Elon Musk was speaking just like that. I think that at the very least, if he doesn't have any proof, he believes that this is truth. And it's sad, because if he believes that this is the truth, why did he give him $200 million for his campaign? You just helped elect a potential pedophile. If you truly believed in this, you shouldn't have helped him into office. But then, karma is a bitch, huh? It caught up to you.
Musk made this huge accusation about Trump, and then we all just moved on from it. We're only now talking about Epstein again because Trump's bumbling AG, after claiming in February that the Epstein client list was sitting on her desk, is now saying that list apparently doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And yet Trump, earlier this month, rushed to her defense and insisted we go back to not talking about his old pal, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, sure. If I
Pam, could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe.
This is a man that was renting almost for an entire interview about auto pens and made that an issue and said that it was the biggest scandal that he heard of his entire life. Auto pens. Yet, so auto pens are such a big deal. But speaking about the Jeffrey Epstein case, in which an entire nation's government can be compromised to a foreign government, is not a big deal. Who are you trying to convince with this rubbish? It's obvious what he's trying to do. He's so obvious. He is so obvious. He is in panic mode. He is so scared. It's so obvious. It is so obvious he's trying to do anything and everything to keep this story away, to bury this story. And I want everybody of his followers to ask themselves a very simple question. Why? Why would he do this? It's either one out of three options. Number one, he is involved himself. Number two, he is trying to protect somebody who is involved, or multiple people who are involved. Or worse, number three, maybe this issue was never an issue. That doesn't happen. Or maybe it is an issue. There is no such a thing as possibility of it not being an issue. But let's entertain the fact that it's not an issue. Whether it's an issue, it's not an issue. Either it's not an issue, it did never happen. Or at least the government never had information on Jeffrey Epstein. And he used this to persuade a bunch of idiots to vote for him, promising them to reveal the case, or he knows that this case exists and still had never any intention to reveal it, but he was willing to manipulate his followers until they believe they believe that he's willing to release information about it, so he can manipulate them about it until he gets into office and then shuts the door in their faces. And I believe this is what happens. He knows what's happening. He knows that there is an issue. Or all the three together, it could be that he's trying to protect himself and his fans, and he was manipulating his base. And usually the truth is in between. It's not one thing or the other. it's sad to see people still trying to cover up for this mess. It really is sad. How can you even not feel ashamed of such a president? We're ashamed for you because of this president. We really
If
are.
you're asking a question on Epstein.
The president should actually count himself lucky that the media and MAGA are only asking Bondi questions about Epstein, because the real person who should be answering questions about Epstein and his own decades-long friendship and association with a man described by a judge as the most infamous pedophile in American history and who died mysteriously in federal prison during his presidency is Donald Trump.
I think Mehdi did a great job summing up this mess. What's left to say? The truth is on the wall. The writing is on the wall. Either you decide to see it or not. And this reminds me of a quote, as a cliche as it is, that says, "You can convince an arrogant, an idiot. You can force an arrogant, an idiot, or a crazy person to see the truth. If you still believe in this man, it's either you're an idiot, or an arrogant person, or completely out of your mind. There is no reason why any sane person will still stand behind this man. This should be the last straw for you. If you had doubts about this man, this should be the end of it. Jump out of the boat while you still can. Because if people are willing to forgive today what this man did and what his base did to the world by electing him, I think that this is the last chance that you have. After this, people will not be able to forgive you. They still will ask you, they can still ask you, why did you support him after this? Why did you support him after that? And you can maybe still find an excuse. But after this, you will not be able to find an excuse. Even I believe your children, your grandchildren will stand in your face and tell you, you supported a pedophile into office. Think about that. Think about that. It's obvious. There's no hiding this. Let's hope that the truth comes out.